Okay, so we're back. We've completed the first turn in Historical Board Gaming's Global War 36. So the July 36 turn is in the books, heading into 1937 now. Not a lot of action going on. Just some armed conflict in a couple of locations around the globe. Mostly countries just kind of setting themselves up, maneuvering units around, kind of feeling each other out a little bit. So let's start with the Germans, since they go first each turn. So they went ahead and they purchased an artillery unit, which they sent to the Nationalists, the side that they are backing in the Spanish Civil War. They also went ahead and purchased a light armor and another artillery they placed on the Western Front, or the future Western Front, I should say, with France and Belgium and the Netherlands. They also upgraded one medium factory to a major factory. Other than that, just kind of maneuvered some stuff around, moved some guys over to the border with Poland in the east. A couple of subs are now up off the coast of Greenland. That was really about it. As far as tech rolls, the Germans were able to successfully get 2 tech rolls, advanced artillery, and improved factories. As far as the Russians, they responded by sending in an infantry unit to the Republicans in Spain, the side that they're backing in the Spanish Civil War. And then again, just much like the Germans kind of maneuvered things around, they've bunched a lot of units up here in northern Russia bordering Finland. So they've got 3 infantry. They've got almost their entire air force, a tank, and a mech up there. So it's probably not going to be long, maybe a couple of turns before the Russians decide to go into Finland. They also maneuvered some units down here in their land territories bordering the Middle East, so possibly going down in the Middle East as the conflict opens up. That's about it for the Russians. They were able to get 1 tech roll, wartime economy, I believe. The British, again, just maneuvering things around. They combined a couple of different fleets and ships they had off the waters of England itself. So they've got a pretty big fleet centered there. They also then came down. They're moving some naval units down here into the mouth of the Mediterranean. Going to have them come over and join up with the fleet that's off of the coast of Egypt. So that'll be a pretty sizable British fleet there. The British saved their money. They were also able to get a wartime economy on the tech roll, and that also allowed both Anzac and the Far East Command to share with that technology as well. I believe I'm reading that rule correctly. If I'm mistaken, go ahead and leave a comment. I believe that whatever tech the British themselves acquire, it is shared, which makes sense with the Far East Command and Anzac, since they all fall under the Commonwealth. So that was about it for the British. The U.S., they're maneuvering some units around, so they've taken about half of the fleet that was over here in the Atlantic, and it's starting to make its way down. It's off of Panama right now. It's going to go ahead and make its way over into the Pacific here within the next turn or two. The U.S. also has got 3 transports off of the coast. Now, the U.S. isn't going to be in the war, even when it erupts, probably for quite a while, but they're already putting together a little bit of a transport fleet so they can move some units over into Europe when the time comes. The French, seeing how the Germans are massing on their border, they went ahead and moved men all around, and now they've got a stack of about 6 men bordering Germany there. They also are combining their fleet. These naval units here that are at the mouth of the Mediterranean, we're over by Normandy, they're going to combine with this fleet over in the Med, so that the Allies will have 2 sizable fleets, one British, one French, in case the Italians wanted to kind of get a little squirrely. The Allies will have them boxed in between two large fleets. The French didn't get any of the tech rolls. The Italians, they engaged a little bit of combat. They came and took Abyssinia. So that fell, and they didn't suffer any casualties in the process. They saved their money. They were able to get lucky in the one tech roll that they had coming to them. They got wartime economy, so that was nice for the Italians. And then the only other conflict was here in Spain, and we're only one turn in, and already the nationalists have got a pretty big advantage. So, again, the Germans had sent an artillery piece down here. The nationalists took this northern Spanish territory from the Republicans. So, on the Republicans' turn, they went back into that territory with 2 infantry, a fighter, and a tactical. Didn't get any hits and lost both infantry, so then both planes retreated. So now in Madrid itself, you've got 3 infantry, a cavalry, a fighter, and a tactical bomber. And in Spain, for the nationalists, you've got a total of 3 regular infantry, 1 mountain infantry, 3 artillery, a fighter, and a cavalry. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the nationalists already try to put the Spanish Civil War to bed and go into Madrid right here in January 37. The Germans will, of course, supply them with another unit, probably another artillery piece. So that'll give them 4 total artillery at first strike, plus that'll bump up the infantry 1 each. So it could be that, and as opposed to waiting a little bit longer and building up more forces, I could see Franco launch an attack into Madrid, and there's no other Republican units in Spain itself but Madrid. So we could see an end pretty quick here to the Spanish Civil War, which is good news for the Germans and the Italians. Over in the Pacific, the Japanese, again, kind of just maneuvering around. They did not get, they were not successful on their one tech roll. They went ahead and upgraded medium factory to a major, and they also went ahead and moved this fleet carrier and this heavy cruiser one more stage down the production chart. Besides that, as you can see, they've combined basically, they've got 2 fleets, this smaller one over here off the Chinese coast, and then they've got a huge fleet in the Japanese home waters, so everything's kind of concentrated right there. And then as you can see on the border, land border here, with this Chinese warlord territory, they've amassed about 6 men, a mech, a cavalry, a couple of tacticals, and a couple of fighters. So not sure the Japanese are going to go in anytime soon, but they're already starting to build up a sizable force to go into China. As far as the Chinese themselves go, the communist Chinese had a good role. They didn't do anything on their turn. They went ahead and used their $2 they get to influence the die roll on a territory that they bordering with one of the warlords, and they rolled a 1. So that was able to influence this territory over here to go from warlord to communist Chinese, and they also own this territory here. So that bumped up the communist Chinese 2 territories. So they doubled their income to 4. And as you can see, they gained quite a few units too. 2 infantry, 3 militia, and 1 cavalry. So the communist Chinese already taken some additional territories, looking pretty good so far. The national Chinese just went ahead. They bought 2 infantry, and they've combined everything down here in this territory outside of Nanking. So kind of trying to put together a fairly large stack to dissuade the communist Chinese from going in there. Other than that, not a lot of action in the Pacific. The Far East Command pulled back some naval units, trying to concentrate everything over here in Western India. Anzac didn't spend any money, just saved their money and kind of just stayed where they were at. Not much for them to do. And then the U.S., again, as you can see, kind of combining, trying to get their whole fleet together here off of San Francisco. These units down here in C Zone 103 came over from the eastern side of the United States. And that was about it. The U.S. was able to get a couple of Tex jet fighters and improved construction. So that's where things stand. As far as the income goes, Germany went up its $2. The British and the French each went up $1, and the Communist Chinese went up $2. Everybody else is where they started turn 1 at. So we'll see how things go heading into turn 2. The Germans will again go ahead and send a unit to the nationalists. And we could see, again, the end of the Spanish Civil War real quick here, which will be one of the victory objectives for both the Germans and the Italians. So we'll see how that plays out here on turn 2.